Good morning. Good morning, my friends. All 24 of my friends so far. Welcome to Morning Coffee with Mitch. Welcome to Morning Coffee with me. And let's just get right into it. So, my friends, you know, I do this to myself all the time. The button is over there that I have to push to change the scene. I pick up the coffee off the warmer with my left hand. I should push the button first, like this. And now, I should pick up the coffee. And I do that every day. Silly. Drink it if you got it. I've been waiting. I haven't had a sip of coffee yet. Ah, people are coming in. Good to see it. Good to see it. One more, please. Indulge me. Indulge me. Listen to the music. Okay, get rid of the music. Get my cell phone out. Take a look at my show notes. Wow, what a past couple of days. I want to thank Kiltsy and Nelson for coming in, spending a little time with me yesterday. It was a nice little visit. Hope you all enjoyed it. Where are my notes? My notes, here they are. Okay. I got a lot to comment on. And sometimes I say to myself, maybe I'd be better off not commenting on anything that goes on in the carnivore community, because no matter what I say or how I say it, how often I say it, what my intentions are when I say it, what I really mean when I say it, two things happen. People either don't hear it, in which case nothing I can do about that, and I don't have that big an audience, or they hear it and they don't get it, or they misunderstand it, or attribute some other motive to me. And this is not just me, this is everybody. That results in misunderstandings, it results in conflict. Peter just had a thought. I just had a thought. The viewer count might be temporarily less because new members or those not yet subscribed. No, that's not how it works. It's not how it works. The viewer count is how many connections to the live stream are active. So it has nothing whatsoever to do with anything I'm doing, anything they're doing, who they are, where they are. All the YouTube knows is this computer connected to that channel. So no, not accurate at all. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. It has nothing to do with the chat, nothing to do with the fact that I've said it, so people have to be subscribed. The viewer count is the viewer count. It only means one thing. Hope I cleared that up. Now, a couple of things I want to just talk about real quick to kind of put to bed finally and forever. until another problem comes up, are these new chat rules. I hate to talk about it. Some people get happy, some people hate me. Nothing I do. I can't please everybody. I'm always trying to please everybody, and it's always been a reality that even though I know, I try to fix. And just like trying to fix the health of the human race, I have no power, and I can only fix me and those people who want to know what I'm doing. And that's about it. So I'm resigned to that. You noticed, if you came in here early enough, or you scroll back in the chat, that it says that I've enabled the slow mode. I've enabled the slow mode. And I'm going to show you a screen here. And on that screen, whoops, wrong screen. On this screen, you'll see I have those controls open in this window. These are the things that control the chat. So anytime I want during this live stream, I can change any of these settings. Right now, it's set to show the live chat. No replay, no summary, no leaderboard. Participant rules. Must be a subscriber for at least a day. Then we have this thing down here called slow mode. And that's the thing that really is most effective and keeping me from being overwhelmed by the chat. I'm not a meanie. I don't want you to not be able to talk to your friends. The problem is that makes it impossible for me to be all that I can be on the chat. And that is to interact with you, not ignore you, notice your questions, answer your questions. But in order to do that, I personally have to read the chat, or my moderator has to keep interrupting me every time he sees a question, and that has been so disruptive that I just can't do it. So I have a choice to make. I either ignore you altogether, turn off the chat, not care about what you say. You want to get my attention, you're going to have to do it like at Ken Berry's and at Anthony Chafee's and everybody else's channel. You're going to have to put it in a super chat. YouTube wants you to do that because they get 30% of that money. YouTube does not want me to see your question if they don't earn any money on it. Everything YouTube does is to earn money. And when a channel gets so big, and I'm not even that big, we can't do it. Can't do it unless I've got a staff. Kiltsy's got a staff. People to sit there, and yet he doesn't stop what he's doing or interrupt his guest interview every time somebody asks a question. Now, we as human beings, we want to be relevant. We want to be relevant. We don't want to come into a room and not have people notice us. We want to be part of it. And I've always made that the most important thing on my channel. Try to make my viewers to appreciate their presence and make you feel welcome. So I used to spend all my day saying hi to everybody. And at the end of the day, when I looked back and kind of graded myself on, did anybody actually get any help here today? The answer was disappointing. So the purpose of my channel is, and I have to do it, is not to have a party every day. Now, so that all sounded well and good, and I put these rules in, and I put the slow mode in the chat. Then I started getting emails from people bad-mouthing Peter. Peter, who's in here trying to help. So instead of bombarding me with questions about everything, you start bombarding Peter with questions. And Peter, nice guy that he is, who wants to help you, is started answering every question. Because he didn't want to interrupt me. Because we have had talks about that. I have to be able to stay on topic. I have to be, so now I got a situation where I'm back to where I was in the first place last year when Peter and I had that little blow up because he was monopolizing my chat. So what did I do to myself? After a year of trying to fix everything, I fixed myself right back in the same corner where Peter felt he had to monopolize the chat because it was helping me. So my viewers start writing me emails saying, Mitch, I can't watch you anymore. I watch to hear you. I want you to answer my questions. I'm not here to have Peter answer our questions. Peter is so monopolizing the chat now, answering everybody's questions, that none of your stream anymore is about you. So I said, oh, great. Now, what do I do? I like Peter. Peter only wants to help. Peter's a good man. Big heart. Only wants to help. Not trying to be a star, trying to help. I know that for a fact. How do I tell Peter without hurting his feelings? Conundrum. So I called Peter, and I explained it to him like I just explained it to you. And he said, I completely understand. I'm not here trying to make it the Papa Carnivore show. I'm here trying to make it. My job is to keep people to catch a comment that might trigger you about certain topics that have triggered you in the past and get rid of it before you see it. And I said, well, that's exactly what I want you to do. So I said, from here on out, Peter, if people ask you a question, just reply, Mitch is here to answer questions. I know you want to be helpful. And so I said to him, how does this mindset happen? How does this mindset happen where people come in, they see the blue, and it dawned on me. It dawned on me that there's a trend in the carnivore community. And I think Ken Berry started it. And there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's a necessity and enables the channel maybe to be more helpful when the host has thousands of people watching at any given time. And trying to do a show and keep track of 1,000 people and interact with them is impossible. And it has gotten impossible for me. So I wondered why. And I said, well, maybe the answer is, and I hope I'm not boring you with this, but this is important to me because I want to go forward with this, but I want to go forward and know that all my viewers are getting something out of this, are happy with the way it works. I know there's always people that aren't going to complain. And to those people, I always say, maybe this isn't the place for you. That's the best I can do because I can't please everybody. But what happens on Ken Berry's channel? And the clue is at the beginning of every stream, he says, the people who are moderators on my channel are proxies for me. I have trained them, talking about training them in the medical part of it. They know what I know, and they're fully qualified to answer your questions. And I think that's a good thing. On Kiltz's channel, the blue wrenches are the people who have, I guess, completed his coaching course, or he feels are medically knowledgeable or knowledgeable enough about carnivore or keto, the actual execution of it, what percentage of fat do I need? Those kind of questions. To answer the questions, and that's why I believe they make them moderators. It takes some of the workload off of the staff. I don't have staff. I have knowledge, which is why people ask me questions. I have methods that work, and I have a following. But what I don't have are proxies in the chat who are there for the purpose of answering your questions. I mean, but it crossed my mind why people do that. So the QQQ is there, and I have to just live with the fact that I can't have Peter pointing them out to me. I can have Peter keeping track of them, so that when I have finished with what I'm talking about, so I don't lose my train of thought, and I don't say don't interrupt me because I want to scold you. I say don't interrupt me because I will interrupt myself and I will not remember where I left off. My brain goes forward 1,000 miles an hour, but sometimes it doesn't look back. It's on the highway, barreling down the highway. The words are coming out. My brain is putting together the speech. The speech is good, but it's spontaneous. And the way my mind works, if I interrupt it, it's gone forever. So out of necessity, so I don't look like a senile old fool. Now, I've been that way since I've been 15 years old, so it's not senility. It's just the way I think. I have to pretty much say, I may or may not get to your question. I may or may not say hello to you. Doesn't mean I don't really appreciate the fact that you're here. And if I don't get to your question, it doesn't mean I didn't think your question was important. And if I want Peter to keep track of it, and I will try to devote a certain amount of time where I climb out of the rabbit hole and say, Peter, do we have any questions? And that's what most of the channels with moderators do. Sometimes the question never gets answered. Believe me, it's not because I don't want to answer the question. I'm probably one of the more approachable and accessible people on YouTube that have a channel that's my size. I pay attention to my viewers. So with that said, I hope you remember that. I hope you don't take offense or feel ignored. I want to try to make these morning shows a little more structured. And the reason I want to do that is my main priority here is to give you something, back to my favorite word, actionable. Not just to constantly point out the problem. Well, the problem is this, problem is that. Problem is Ansel Keys. The problem is the government. The problem is corruption. The problem is advice. That's great, Mitch. We knew that. We hear that everywhere. What the hell do I do about it? How do I stop eating birthday cake at a birthday party? That's the only thing that'll actually help me. Understanding all the science behind it and the causes of it, that's my job. My job is trying to make you understand it in a way that it means something to you so you can actually come up with a plan to do something actionable. The new thrust of my channel is the carb addiction spectrum. That's being a pioneer. I talked about it yesterday. I didn't see a lot of enthusiasm. I'm convinced that's where the answer is to why you can't pass up the birthday cake and somebody else can. I think the answer is to understand that the things you need to do for yourself maybe don't apply to them. I want to do that without stepping on anybody's toes whose priority or thinking may be a little different than mine. My thinking goes along those lines because that's my problem. Does that make sense? Do you understand? Does that sink in? I blame carb addiction as the #1 problem for the poor diet because that's my problem. I've recognized it. I also recognize that not everybody is as addicted to carbs as I. I recognize that when I tell that person who can occasionally eat a little of this, occasionally eat a little of that I agree with that that's okay, there's a caveat that I throw in there that they're not aware of. Because they're not as much a carb addict as me. I could have the same conversation about alcohol, and the shoe would be on the other foot, which is why I tell people who are not alcoholics, you can't give an alcoholic advice. I'm sorry, I don't care how you couch it, you don't understand. The tendency is to think, well, I can do that, so why can't you? Well, that's very unrealistic and selfish way of thinking. But if you, like me, aren't a 100 on the carb addiction spectrum, you cannot understand the pull, the lack of control caused by these cravings. I've never said you have to be a strict carnivore. I've never said that you can't ever sprinkle a microgram of garlic powder on your steak. I've only said you have to identify the point in any substance where you lose self-control and avoid those things. So, if I relate that to alcohol, I could care less about alcohol. You almost have to force me to have a glass of wine. So I can have a glass of wine at a social occasion, let's say. The sugar in the wine may addict me, but it hasn't, because I can't stand the taste of alcohol. I don't like wine. I cannot understand, unless I relate it to food, how an alcoholic has to drink. But I do understand that fact that I don't understand, so I can't give him advice. I have no idea how to stop drinking alcohol or what would work. I've never thought about it for years and developed actionable things to do to make that craving go away, to overcome that craving. What works for carbohydrates, well, probably isn't the same thing for alcohol or drugs. I don't know the pull that heroin has on a heroin addict. And my advice for beating carbohydrate addiction is basically, for 30 days, do nothing but eat meat and stuff your face, eat till you can't move. You can't do that with a drug addict. You can't give them that advice. Or an alcoholic either. You can't say drink yourself to oblivion for 30 days. That doesn't make the physiological changes in your body that actually make the cravings go away like they do with carbohydrates. Because the addictions come from different places, and carbohydrate addiction is an addiction like none other. It comes from our ancient evolutionary history as a survival mechanism. And no time in the past has alcohol or any other addictive substance been baked into our DNA and epigenetics, because without it we wouldn't have survived at the time. It's a huge difference. It's a whole different animal. A much more powerful animal because it's an ancient animal. You don't hear that being said. And that's okay. That's okay. That's what I think, and I've discovered, because I'm a raging carb addict and I have been trying to fix it all my life. That's why I came on YouTube. Now, my methods probably differ wildly from everybody else's. Doesn't mean everybody else's methods might not be a better method for you than my method. And I'm not forcing my method, my beliefs, my thoughts, my ideologies on anybody. I'm not selling you my ideas. I'm willing to share them with you. They worked for me. They worked for a lot of other people so far. And I learned more and more about them. I have to be so careful what I say if I even breathe the name of another influencer. What a world we live in. Everything has to be a contest with people. Give you an example. I was talking about what was going on in the carnivore community with this new push to add carbs, with so many influencers, everybody with new ideas, different ways that make you wonder if you're doing the right thing. And I started to give it, I was given a few examples of people that are famous in the carnivore community. And I said one name and one basically word about it. I said, look at Dante Ferrigno. He's, and I think I used the word wandering or something to indicate that he was having a little crisis of some kind or another. And that's all I said. That's all I said. Later that day, I get an email from Dante. And it said, why are you telling people I'm not a carnivore anymore? Three hours it took. One of my viewers told me you said I'm not a carnivore anymore. Now, Dante had just put out a video because he's having some hard times. He's going through a rough patch. You haven't seen many videos from him. He was explaining to his viewers why he hasn't been around for about 30 days, why he kind of fell off the wagon for a minute. He's having but it's nothing to do with carnivore. He's having one of those little life crises that we all have. He didn't quit carnivore. I never said he quit carnivore. But somebody had to tell the teacher. Somebody had to tell the teacher. Like it's done to me all the time. Hey, Mitch, I heard you said this about me. What I said was not what you heard. People will jump on the bandwagon to badmouth anybody they can. They will tell tattletales like a little kid, and I am sick and tired of playing these kindergarten games. Because every time this happens, I have to change my rules to try to make sure it doesn't happen again, because I don't want to hurt Dante's feelings. Dante and I exchanged a few emails. He's fine. He's not really mad at me. He was just wanting me to know he's still a carnivore. That's not how I took it when I read the email. It sounded like he was chastising me, like, you stop telling people that or I'm going to sue you. But that wasn't what he meant. I know Dante. He was basically saying, I don't know where you got that idea, but I just want you to know it's not true. And I said, well, I know it's not true. And we, laughed about it. And we laughed about people who have to tell the teacher behind somebody's back every time they think that person does something wrong. And our community is so full of those people. And what do we do about that? That's people. That's human nature. That's just human nature. We need conflict. Somehow, seems like we need to have something to fight about. We need to have a side to pick so we can be against the other side. That's our entire world. And no matter how much I try to come on here and just say, I want to talk about some things that might help you overcome the urge to eat that birthday cake. Is that what you're interested in? And I never seem to be able to accomplish it. So, I have to. And Peter, okay, Peter is answering, Peter's talking to people, and that's okay. And Peter's defending me. That's okay. But Peter, while you're doing all that, they're not listening to me. They're not listening to me. I'm sorry. I think that the answer, maybe I have to do it. I don't know. I'm beginning to get to the point where I just don't know how to handle it. It's causing me too much stress. And it's not enriching my life. It's hurting me. It's hurting me. I said yesterday, help me. I don't know I don't know what to do. I'm the bad guy no matter what I do. I'm the poster child for the phrase, no good deed goes unpunished. I didn't invent that. That's been around for a long time. But if you look that phrase up in the dictionary, you'll probably find my picture. You probably find my picture. Loretta says, no, don't stop the chat. Listen, I have fun with you guys chatting. So let me get back to it. I want you to just kind of feel my pain sometimes. Instead of criticizing me, sympathize with me. Think about herding cats. They always say you can't herd cats. Well, that's what this is like, trying to wrangle this bunch of wildly different people. It's like herding cats. It's tiring and it takes all your attention. I don't want to work like a sheepdog, running this way, running that way, running this way, make sure all the sheep are there. I don't want you to be sheep. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be able to benefit from some of my insights, which are very hard fought over a lot of years. And work. And actually work. And what's right for me would definitely not be right for so many other people who don't need to consider the severity of their addictive. But I should be able to take a survey, but surveys are always misleading. People don't answer, or don't answer honestly, or they're deluding themselves and their answers aren't even true, but it's what they want to believe. So surveys are useless. Polls are useless. Most studies are useless. There's no way to find out. So I keep saying, why are you here? I want to help. If all you're doing is getting aggravated with me, you're in the wrong place. I'd rather people. I don't want to recruit anybody. I don't want to recruit anybody. I don't want to try to sell you my ideas. I want to present them to you. I think if you're like me, you'll find them helpful. And I think there are 100 million, maybe 200 million people out there who are carb addicts that would benefit from what I'm saying. Severe carb addicts. I think the problem is so much larger than anybody gives it credit for. Evidenced by the fact that almost 90% of people in this country are metabolically unhealthy from eating too much sugar. Forget that plants are trying to kill you. We've been dealing with plants for 100 years, 1,000 years, million years, 2 million years. The human race has adapted to eating certain plants, have learned the ways to prepare them, which plants to eat, which plants not to eat, what plants not to eat raw. Became part of the culture. It was passed down from generation to generation, from grandmother to granddaughter. Here's how you cook beans. Here's what you do with this. Here's you do that. We've lived, we've survived, we've reproduced. We're still here. Until the last 100 or 150 years, when we learned chemistry and we learned how to manipulate and how to profit from and figured out how to make cheap food out of the wrong ingredients, call it food, and get our top scientists to fix it so that it triggered every addiction response from the human body that really doesn't apply but can be hijacked. And we became a nation of carb addicts. Prove me wrong. I think if you try to prove me wrong, it'll open your own eyes when you start looking at what's going on and how virtually none of the top-down suggestions are doing anything to make it any better. It still gets worse, minute by minute. Sam's Club still has more and more shelf space every time I go in there devoted to carbohydrate junk food, because that's what people buy. And they pay a lot of money for it. Do they buy it? Why do they buy it? They can't live without it. Prove me wrong. Go to your supermarket. Look in people's shopping carts. Look at people that are starving. Look at all these people that are complaining now about not receiving their SNAP benefits. And I won't get into politics, but if you're somewhat aware, you know why the government still shut down, and it is unconscionable to pull political stunts and use other people's suffering as political leverage. The people that are doing that. And then blaming the other guys for the problem. I see that every day. I'm so disappointed in the human race. And kind of every man for himself, which is why I'm here with 122 people who are interested. And if I get past all the noise and the dissatisfaction and the hurtful comments and the threats and all this other crap that happens, and we can talk only about it. Now, on the bright side, enough of that. On the bright side, I've had a lot of great response. Great response to my concept of the carb addiction spectrum, because I think it's just an obvious thing. And the spectrum exists everywhere, and I used alcohol. Some people can have a drink or two a day. It's fine. It may be good for them. Maybe the relaxation from it, the ability to get their mind off of really stressful and aggravating things, get a little tipsy, offsets any chemical damage that might be done, and they live to be 90, 100, 110 years old, these people. Nobody needs to be a Nazi about anything unless it's something that's going to kill you or shorten your life. And there's no doubt that carbohydrate addiction shortens your life. The average lifespan going down and down. Now it's like 75 or 76 years old. It's absurd these days with modern medicine. Well, and that's with modern medicine extending people's lives 10, 15, 20 years who should have been dead long ago. Everybody who develops diabetes should be dead, if not for the treatments. Everybody who develops severe heart disease should have died, if not for the surgical techniques. So, yeah, and even with all of the life-extending techniques and drugs we have to extend the lives of people that should have died from something, the lifespan continues to get shorter. The percentage of people with these particular conditions, chronic conditions, keeps going up. The problem is not getting solved. You don't have to search real far to find some information or somebody yelling, it's the sugar, stupid. And they're still demonizing red meat. How many of you know who Michael Savage is? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Just, I sometimes I want to ask you questions, and I'm interested. I want to know if people are listening and and if you have. How many people know who Michael Savage is? NC7 says, laughing out loud, I watched that right now. Yes, says Rita May. Don't know Michael Savage. That's Kathy. I do not know Michael Savage. Bart K took him to task yesterday. That's another story. Bart K also didn't know who Michael Savage was. Charlie Fairclough. Yep, yes, love him, John says. Yeah, I used to love him too. In fact, I still love him. Even if he's crazy about talking about shit he doesn't understand. Definitely yes. Okay, somebody's listening to me. Let me tell you about Michael Savage. Because, again, you're going to find it very divided. And I don't want to say anything bad about Bart K, because I think Bart K is a very brilliant man. But I watched his reaction to Michael Savage's video last night, and I was outraged. Outraged. Because I could imagine somebody who didn't know me doing exactly the same thing to me that Bart K did to Michael Savage. Bart K doesn't know who Michael Savage is. Michael Savage used to be one of the biggest nationally syndicated radio hosts 20, 30, 40 years ago, in the days of Rush Limbaugh, Neil Bortz, and those guys. He isn't a college-educated nutritional scientist, biologist, biochemist. I always thought, at least in the earlier days, that he was a brilliant but a little eccentric and egotistical man. But the words that came out of his mouth were not stupid. He wasn't giving diet advice. It was mostly political. He's an author. He's an incredibly prolific author. Look up his books. God knows how many books that man wrote. These books ended up on the bestseller lists. he was so right-wing and so conservative in his thinking and was so vocal about it. Get this. They banned him from ever setting foot in the United Kingdom again because he kept calling them out on the liberal nonsense that they kept. The reason that they finally ended up with Brexit, if you remember that. Michael Savage was so vocal about that they banned him from their country for life. This is the man who's now 83 years old, has had a heart attack, has been on a whole food diet most of his life, but at 83, he, and I hate to say this because he'd argue about it and deny it, but I think he's suffering from dementia. His personality is still there, but when I watched him in his video, you can tell. You can tell there's confusion when he's kind of shuffling through papers looking for. His mind is. He's 83 years old. He had a heart attack. And for whatever reason, stupid or not, he puts out a video just trashing a carnivore diet based on phony science. And spouting things, and I was ashamed of him. And my thought was, if I ever get like that, I hope my son says, Mitch, it's time to stop. If I lose my mind to that point where I'm not aware of what I'm doing, or I get that confused, where I can't sit and talk for an hour without a cheat sheet, when I get to the point where I think, I see I'm confused behind the wheel of a car, I will stop driving. Nobody needs to tell me, Mitch, it's time, maybe you're just getting old. Because I can accept that. But poor Michael became the target of one of the most brutal Bart K takedowns I've ever seen. Bart K, and ladies, put your finger in your ears because there's no other way that I can say it. Bart K called him an ignorant cunt no fewer than 50 times during that interview. And in the beginning of the interview, Bart said, I never heard of Michael Savage before. So he takes a video from a senile old man who used to be brilliant, calls him a liberal. When Michael Savage wrote the book, Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, a brilliant book. Takes a basically going senile old man and puts him through the most demeaning, insulting, and I can see why Bart K would have thought that, but he didn't know who Michael Savage was. Many great men, many brilliant men go senile. Let them rest in peace, will you? Let them retire in peace. George Carlin was almost the same way. Remember George Carlin? He got so outrageous towards the end of his life. Almost nasty. A brilliant man. That might happen to you and me. Do you want the vultures circling overhead, not even aware of how great you might have been at one point in your life? I was thoroughly and completely disgusted by that. I understand Bart. I like Bart. I think Bart K is a brilliant man. But it broke my heart to see Michael Savage. Now, I hope to hell But it'll never happen. That Michael Savage never sees this. I hope that he doesn't try to go up against Bart Kay. That would be like me getting in a boxing ring with Sean Baker. I get the shit beat out of me. He's not in any shape, I don't think, mentally, to endure what Bart Kay can dish out. That's my opinion. You make your own opinion. Take the time to know Michael Savage as well as I know him and have known him for 40 years. To be shocked by what he's become and how he's descended, because I think he wasn't eating enough meat. How he right now is just buying into the consensus of studies say, and this and that, and animal studies show, and all the other bullshit, which is so easy to pick apart. And Bart Kay's an artist at that. But it was disgusting. It was disgusting, cruel. You don't just try to destroy what you don't know. Just on, if that was the case, we'd all be murdering crazy people that have just gone off the deep end. I didn't know if I was going to talk about that this morning, but someone who doesn't know Michael Savage and who knows Bart Kay will say, wow, that was great last night. Bart Kay really tore that guy a new one, didn't he? I have no idea the reality of the situation. So don't be so quick to judge. Don't be so quick to judge. Usually judge wrong. At any rate, I want to. What time is it? It's got almost 8 o'clock. I didn't even get to my subject. I wanted to say something positive. Let's talk about something positive. My carb addiction spectrum concept is here to stay. If it doesn't take off, if people, I keep trying to come up with actionable things. I remember the intermittent lion diet I came up with. Maybe you could do the lion diet every other day. Well, that never, nobody ever gave any credence to that. So I said, okay, forget the lion diet. I decided I was going to write a book about how to execute carnivore. Well, there was no enthusiasm for that. I made the first video. We're going to do it in video form. I'm going to make 20 videos, chapters. Tremendous amount of work. I made the first chapter, got 1,000 views. I said, nah, hell with this. Nobody cares. Why would I work so hard? I wrote a book. Nobody bought it. I mean, if people aren't interested in what I have to say, that's fine. But I still keep coming up with these ideas that I know will work, and I'm trying to help. So this latest brainstorm of mine is from a lifetime of observation and questioning. How come some people can walk away from a bottle of scotch and some people can't? How come some people can sit next to a birthday cake and never even think about it, and other people have no control? And if any of you out there think that we don't lose control, then you can't understand it because you're not a carb addict. You don't belong here. Everybody belongs here, they just don't know it. They don't know it. Robert F. Kennedy, he should be talking about carb addiction as a big problem, not red dye number 5. I'm sorry. Not that red dye number 5 is any good, but it's not a problem of the magnitude of the fact that the very industries that make money on feeding us are doing the same thing the tobacco companies. Wait, time out. They are the tobacco companies. I forgot. The tobacco companies bought the food companies back when the tobacco companies were being demonized for trying to addict children to tobacco, for having their scientists try to engineer the cigarettes and the chemicals so that it would be more addictive. They understand addiction. It's not like, oh, we didn't know people would get addicted. They are capitalizing on addiction. So we decided cigarettes were so dangerous for us, we're going to try to outlaw them. How'd that work out for you? Kind of like prohibition, right? Yeah, you may have cut down smoking. Sure, you cut down smoking. Why was it so easy to cut down smoking? Why was it all of a sudden so easy for people to give up cigarettes? Because you bought all the food companies. You bought Nabisco, you bought Nestle, you bought them all. Reynolds. Because it's also an addictive business. You sent your scientists, after they had made cigarettes irresistible to smokers, to the food companies. Okay, how can we apply the same science to the food to make it addictable? Let's invent the Dorito. Let's invent the Lay's potato chip. We need customers for life. We get customers for life by addicting people to things. They made the food so addictive by fine-tuning what they call the bliss point that nobody can stay away from it. And they buy it in massive quantities. They ship it to pallet loads to supermarkets and Sam's Clubs and Costco's. I don't have to sell that truth to you. Go to Costco. Breakfast cereals, everything, more and more and more addictive. You can't, if you're a carb addict, you can't control yourself. They put it in the supermarkets. They call it impulse buying, where all the candy bars and all that other crap is. You go to Office Depot, you can't check out without running the gauntlet of things that will trigger your addiction and make you buy addictive carbohydrates. How can anybody alive on the planet Earth today not see that this is the biggest problem, health problem in the friggin' world? And none of the things that anybody's trying to do to fix it are done at any level other than small little grassroots communities who figure out some way to make it better, but always will remain grassroots efforts. That's where we are. No documentary we have ever made is known by 99% of the people out there or ever heard of it. But the documentaries made by the sugar companies and funded by them, the forks over knives, things like that, the vegan documentaries, you hear about them on the news because they own the media. They own the media because they support it. They support it by spending billions of dollars on advertising for their food products and their drugs, which is why when you watch TV, that's what you see. Food and drug advertising. Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Nestle. We're inundated with it. We're not only addicted to it from the chemical and sensory part, we're just addicted to it from our eyes, our ears, and the concepts they present to us that they know we want. You can be skinny and beautiful like that bikini-clad volleyball player on the beach if you just drink Diet Coke, which plays right to your addiction for something and triggers from the sweet taste. They own us. And we can't fight back because we don't have a conduit to people that they do with the propaganda. That's the problem. Where do I fit in? I don't. I can't fix it. I don't even think it's fixable anymore. I think a big reset is in order. I think the human race has to go near extinct again. I think to really fix it, we got to go into the dystopian type futures that you see in the movies, where there's no electricity anymore, no conveniences, no cell phones, where we have to go back to either dying or figuring out some way to raise food. And we pretty much have to start all over. The population will decrease. Less than 1 million people worldwide, maybe. Maybe it'll take an asteroid hitting the planet. It's happened many times in our past. Many times the human population has had a bottleneck down to, at one point, about 1,000 years ago, or 10,000 years ago, I think it was, we were down to about 1,000 people in the world. There were, and we're all descendants from them. Maybe it was 1,000 years ago, 900 some years ago. I don't pay that much attention to the time, but there have been tremendous bottlenecks. We've almost gone extinct many times as a species. Look it up. It's in the anthropological record and the archaeological record. It's easy for me to say. So I guess I want to start tomorrow. I wanted to say that a couple of people have written me tremendously inspiring messages, emails, about jumping on this carb addiction spectrum bandwagon concept, as that's the most brilliant thing they've ever heard, and I want to help you. I got a thing from a fellow that I'm going to actually have a video conference with. He's not trying to sell me anything. He saw me on Dave Mack. Never heard of me before. It hit him like it hit me. Was so like, why haven't anybody thought of that before? And he's evidently, like my friend Barry Simon, kind of a AI hobbyist or freak or whatever. And he's evidently very good at it, and he took the time to generate something to show me what can be done with AI. Hold on a second, I want to show you something. It's not ready for prime time yet. Oh, wow, what did I do? There it is. Got to move windows around. There you go, okay. Yeah, wait, I shut the chat. I went ahead and closed my chat window. That's all right. Hang on. I'll get it up here. iChat. Okay. He took my video, what I said on Dave Mack's video. He got a transcript of that. You can do that from YouTube. You can get a printed transcript of every word said on a YouTube video. And he used this particular, and I hadn't heard of it before, and that's why we're going to get together on a video chat, and he's going to teach me how to use this particular AI. And he, as an example of what you can do with it, he went ahead and created this from my words. Now, I didn't write this, and if I was a teacher, I would grade the spelling, because this was all AI generated, just from my words. And they, right away, they put a T on the end of carbohydrate. Oh, that's AI. You know, so you can't just use AI to generate something and then go ahead and use it. You better look over carefully. In this thing, they peppered it with a few 4-letter words. And I didn't take them out, but I will before I would put anything like this on my website or use it or publish it. But I was blown over by the fact that from my words, this was generated by a computer. And what it says here, I'm going to make it a little bigger so you can see it. What it says here, the title of this is a 3 or 4 page synopsis of my speech on Dave Mack. The carbohydrate addiction spectrum. Why everything in moderation is bullshit for some of us. Now, I could not have summed it up any better than that. Think about that. That's the company line, everything in moderation. It doesn't apply to a severe carb addict. Why everything in moderation is bullshit for some of us, by Mitch Weiss, Old Guy Carnivore. And this says, the carbohydrate addiction spectrum, it's a spectrum, people. There's a moderation zone and an addiction zone. This is you in the moderation zone eating 1 cookie. Here you are in the addiction zone, swimming in cookies, helpless. AI deduced the meaning from what I was saying from the words and created this graphic with the blue fading to the red. It's unbelievable. And I'm going to use it. Then it says, look, I'm almost 79 years old and I've been around long enough to know that people are different. Shocking revelation, right? That sounds like me, doesn't it? But here's what nobody wants to talk about. We're not all wired the same way when it comes to carbohydrates. The carnivore community, hell, the entire low-carb world has been dancing around this for years. We've got the lion diet folks eating nothing but red meat, salt, and water. We've got regular carnivores. We've got sloppy carnivores. Yeah, that's a thing. Now, I use the word sloppy carnivore. This is, I wish I could take credit for writing something that portrayed my thoughts as closely as this. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We've got keto people, low-carb people, and then Paul Saladino over there telling them to eat fruit and honey like it's 1999. I said, does this not blow your mind? And it's a spectrum, people. And here's how it works. And here's everything in moderation is bullshit for some of us. Now, I'll figure out a way to reword that graphic. And it continues on. The blueberry ice cream story, or how addiction plays you like a fiddle. Why this matters, and why just have willpower can go fuck itself. Well, obviously I'm going to take that word out, but if you want to, if I want people to understand what I mean, there's no better way to say it than that. Here's what people don't understand. This isn't a moral failing. This is neurochemistry. Some of us have brains that respond to certain foods, especially high glycemic carbohydrates, the same way a drug addict's brain responds to their drug of choice. That dopamine, the crash, the craving, the compulsion, it's real. And telling someone like me just to moderate is like telling an alcoholic to just have 1 beer. It fundamentally misunderstands the problem. Then it talks about the danger of keto knockoffs. This is from my speech ranting about don't ever make imitation low-carb versions of foods you're addicted to. And there's the just have willpower, go fuck yourself. Addicts can't moderate. And then the bottom line, and then we're just different than the other guy. And once you accept that, really accept it, you can stop torturing yourself and start eating in a way that actually works for your brain. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to make sure there are no blueberries in my freezer. And it says contact OldGuyCarnivore, and you see, that's the message. That's the message. AI recognized it from my speech. How many humans did? How many humans did? It wasn't my speech. My speech evidently was perfectly understandable. I lost the chat. Indulge me, friends. Indulge me real quick so I can pop the chat out, because I closed that window by accident, and I can go into here and I can say stretch it out and make it skinny. I have to do all this to set up my live streams. It's amazing every day. All right, there you go. Chat's back. It's amazing that my speech on Dave Mack was so clear and unambiguous, the things I said that were just coming out of my head, that some artificial intelligence program was able to take those words and turn it into a 3 or 4 page summary with pictures that mirrored my thoughts. Unbelievable. And it's a fabulous tool for that. When it starts to eliminate me from the picture, that's when I'm going to get a little scared. NC7 says, before I found you, I was saying something similar. I didn't blame the one consuming the carbs. I simply turned it on its head by saying these foods are doing what they are designed to do. It's absolutely, as is the message, absolutely. Thank you, Rick Perez. Kind of complimenting you on the Dave Mack interview, and I like Dave. Dave's a good guy. He does a lot of good for the community. I'm hoping that I'm finally done with, so I can stop feeling the need to please everybody, because I just can't. I just can't. The best I can tell you is, I'm not forcing you here. I'm trying to show you that maybe there's something here that might work for you, but maybe not. Maybe not. I've loosened up my strict carnivore stuff based on this new philosophy of mine, and not everybody needs to be strict carnivore, but there are other considerations in food that you need to eat, and we need to make sure that's made clear. Just because you may not have to eat only meat doesn't mean you should be eating tons of oxalate-containing foods, seed oils, and other things that aren't good for you, whether you're an addict or not. So healthy eating is important. Who defines what's really healthy or not? That's where the controversy comes in, and so many of the unknowns. And all I don't do studies. I don't do laboratory studies and funded trials and try to raise millions of dollars to do a study like Dave Feldman did. But Dave Feldman had an epiphany based on his high cholesterol and his worry about whether it was going to kill him or not. And he's an engineer, no medical training whatsoever, which I think is highly overrated, considered most of the people who have been medically trained are all wrong. That doesn't bode much for medical training. I think I'm better off not having been indoctrinated in medical school for 10 years so I could be a statin pusher. I think that's a benefit. It makes me more able to help than so many of these doctors and scientists with all the letters behind their name. I'm like Dave Feldman. I'm like Bill Gates. I'm like Steve Jobs. Nobody ever had to teach me anything. I figured out what I know. It's up to you to decide if you think what I figured out actually is worth anything, and then you stick around. My new little theory is kind of like Dave Feldman's theory, and there's no way I can do a test like he is, because mine is so broad. But I think he's got merit, and I think it makes sense. So we're going to continue to talk about that and other things. We're going to still be entertaining, and I'm still going to interact with you. And a lot of you won't notice much of a change, but the topic's going to tend more towards this. How do we figure out? How do we help other people figure out just exactly how strict their carnivore diet? Now, we're starting under the assumption that the carnivore diet is the only way I've ever found to control carb addiction. Period. It changes you chemically, and the addiction goes away. Nothing else does that. There are drugs that might do that, if you want to go that route, but I don't know if that's such a good idea. While people are so worried about red meat being bad for them, they're loaded up on GLP-1s and paralyzing their whole intestinal tract. While people are busy claiming that eating too much red meat is going to give you colon cancer and a heart attack, they're dying 1,000 to 1 because of the effects of the drugs they're taking. So you do the math and the logic. My friends, hello to everybody that's still here. Thanks for coming. Play a little happy music. Tomorrow, we're going to stop talking about, and you're not going to hear me talking about other influencers. I said my piece on Michael Savage. Nothing against Bart Kay. He just didn't know the guy. But I didn't think it was very fair. Not a fair fight. Not a fair fight at all. Doesn't mean I think less of Bart Kay. I think he's a brilliant man. I think he knows what he's talking about. And I recognize his shtick, his act, his persona, his character on TV from who he really is. And I really, truly believe that he's not that guy that he portrayed it. But that's what people want to see, and that's what he gives them. So Bart, when 27 people call you today and tell you, old guy trashed you terribly, watch the replay of this live stream. You'll see exactly why I was so disappointed. It wasn't you. That's your act. It was poor Michael Savage. Didn't deserve that, and it's his fault. Nobody has told him, it's time to go, Michael. And that's the reality of it. But I'm going to get some backlash, like I do every time I mention any other YouTuber's name. So I'm going to try to stop that. Never mention the name of another YouTube influencer ever again, and put that little fire out. Okay. What else? That's about it. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging in there. I'll be back tomorrow morning. And tomorrow night we have the private community live stream. Thanks so much. Wayne, good show. Thank you. Rick, have a great day. Denise Kink, I hope he does watch. Yeah. Thanks, Mitch, says Lori. Yeah, Peter, everybody wants to know the ending of the Great Blueberry Experiment. Remind me first thing tomorrow, will you? I'm not trying to drag it out or over dramatize it. It's just, to me, it's just funny. But still proves my point. And I did learn something from it, so I want to take a little time and try to tell you what I learned. Maybe that'll help you all. Okay. You know the drill. You know the drill. Take the rest of the day off and eat meat.